All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Philip Jennings, the co-president of the International Peace Bureau today, and also Sean Connor, the Deputy Executive Director of the International Peace Bureau. And first of all, congratulations to both of you, and of course to the whole team from the ITUC, the International Peace Bureau, and also to the Olaf Palme International Center on the launch of the second Common Security Report 40 years after the first one. I'm pretty sure that when you started this project, you didn't really know what the situation would be in international politics today. So I think one can say that we do stand at a crossroad right now, and we have to decide either to go on a way of confrontation and aggression, or one with peace and common security. So the Common Security Report, and in general, the concept of common security is meant to be a starting point on how to tackle the global challenges which we are facing right now. And Philip, first of all, in your opinion, what are those global challenges which the world faces nowadays, and how can the concept of common security counteract with these?
Thank you, Nina, and thanks for this opportunity. I'm delighted that this idea that germinated essentially with the executive of the IPB and a conversation I had with Joseph Gerson way back a couple of years ago has resulted in this important initiative which was launched today. The whole idea was not just to mark the 40th anniversary of the original Common Security Report, but to try to come up with an idea with what was said then, is it still relevant and has resonance today? And what we have done is shown that there was a crisis then, but the crisis that we face today is even more acute. We have a breakdown in what we call the multilateral system. We have not just ideological differences, but a strategic commitment to confrontation. And that's just in ideological terms, in economic terms, in finance terms, in military terms, you name it. There's a space where there's this confrontation, this clash is taking place. And who knows where this will take us. One thing is very clear, it's an in danger to our peace and global security, people's security. We have economic inequality, much more acute today than it was 40 years ago. We're just coming through, we're living through, and hopefully coming out of a global pandemic for which we were totally ill-prepared. We had this threat of shrinking democratic spaces and authoritarian regimes and growing militarization. We were worried about the military industry complex in the 1980s, at least Palmer was. And when we look at the power that the military industry complex has today, and when we look at the sheer escalation in arms expenditure, then we've got a lot to be worried about. And frankly, we didn't see the Ukraine war coming to the extent that we've seen when we started this process. So we have a world in trouble, we have a world in turmoil, and therefore there's a responsibility on all of us to say, well, what's next? And how do we deal with this crisis that is unfolding before our eyes, accentuated by the climate crisis? And what came through today is that you can't disassociate climate change from the threats to peace and the insecurity that we face in this world. We've come up with a plan. We've said that this idea of common security is relevant today, i.e. that there's a mutuality of interest, that you don't become stronger by making your neighbor weaker, and that for joint survival, we need a mutuality of an approach. And this has been lost. This message has been lost. This practice has been lost. And we almost have to build things anew. The plan that we have is to strengthen a new global architecture for peace, to have revitalized nuclear arms control, to try to develop a sense of a new peace dividend through disarmament, and to have new prohibitions and regulations on new military technologies and outer space weapons in particular. So it's an idea to show that common security is relevant, it has resonance, that it provides a frame for people to sit down and negotiate. In just 3 years from now, we have the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Accords. Today, it was mentioned again how important this agreement was in 1975. We therefore have a reason, we have a path, we have a deadline to try to take us back to that moment where the world said we have to change direction in terms of military, in terms of human rights, and in terms of how we build institutions for peace. The stakes are extremely high. We don't want more Ukraines, more Yemens, more Syrias, and more conflict in this world. And we tried in this initiative to try and find a way forward, a path forward for the people, for decision takers, for global institutions, for national governments, and to not drop our guard and not to be found wanting in this process. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned some very, very important points here, Philip. What I was just wondering is how, as we read this common security report, especially as individuals, as young people, my generation, for example, what can we actively do to reach common security? So what is your call to action? How can we engage, Sean?
Sure. I began mentioning this, but couldn't elaborate too much in our launch event earlier today. But essentially, the report is a report about an idea or a concept of common security, which is something that directly opposes a sort of hegemonic idea that exists now, that security is achieved through more arms, through more military action, and that is how we feel secure. We know, and the report states, that this is not the case, this is not true, and that as we arm ourselves, we create an arms race, but also a greater risk of something going wrong. And especially in modern times, and the part that Philip had mentioned about new technologies, new weapons, including AI, cyber threats, hypersonic missiles and beyond, make this an even more dangerous playing field where one wrong move can lead to absolute disaster. So with that in mind, on one level, it is spread through conversations. We need to be able to engage with all of those around us on what really does security mean? How can we secure ourselves? And to move away from what has too long been the hegemonic view of what security means. So how is this then more practically done? On some levels, this is an educational campaign. This is something we want to work with academics. We want to work with teachers, with students, with young people to understand and to spread the idea amongst themselves. Beyond that, this is also something that we need to reach out to specific actors, politicians being one category, but we also, of course, need to reach out to civil society actors, not just those directly engaged in the peace movement, but as was also mentioned, we can't separate the peace from climate issues. And so we also need to work with our partners across all social movements to create this new understanding of what security means and to reach it together. So those are some of the central groups that we need to have involved in this. And this, of course, needs to be a global campaign. Security can still mean slightly different things depending on where in the world you are. Security in Latin America may not look like security in East Asia, for example. So there's also work to be done, conversations to be had, ideas to be further developed in specific regional and local contexts as to what this means. And some of the other speakers in our launch event today also brought this up and what it means to them to have security in specific regions. Human security is part of common security, and we need to keep that in mind as well.
All right, thank you, Sean, for your answer. I'd say after hearing both your perspective, we can see, or we all agree, that your work on the report and also stronger discourse for peace and common security is even more important in these unsteady times that we have right now. So let me just conclude with saying thank you very much to both of you that you took the time for this very short interview on this busy day for you. And again, congratulations, and I hope to talk to you very soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.